Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you today about something that's been on my heart for a long time. Something so important that if we can understand it, embrace it, and live by it, it has the power to change lives. It's not just about you or me. It's about everyone, and it's about how we see one another. It's about understanding the strength and weakness that exists within all of us. Today, I want to speak on the topic of every woman's weakness. Now, when I say weakness, I don't mean weakness in the way the world often defines it. We live in a society that loves to define things, box them up, and put labels on them. When people hear the word weakness, they often think of something fragile, something that can break, something that isn't strong enough. But that's not what I'm talking about. No. What I'm talking about is the kind of weakness that shows up when we carry the world on our shoulders, when we push ourselves to the limit, when we're trying to be everything to everyone and we forget about ourselves in the process. Every woman's weakness is not about what you can't do, it's about what you refuse to do. It's about not allowing yourself the grace to rest, to breathe, to heal, to acknowledge that you're human. Every woman carries a lot. The roles you play, the titles you wear, mother, daughter, sister, friend, employee, boss, wife, leader, these titles carry weight, but sometimes we don't recognize how heavy that weight can be. Women are built with incredible strength, resilience, and endurance. But there's a hidden danger when we don't honor our need for support, when we don't give ourselves permission to show vulnerability, to be seen in our fullness. You see, there's a power in vulnerability, in acknowledging that, yes, we all have limitations, that no matter how strong, how independent, how fearless we may seem, there are moments when we feel weak. And that's okay. That's not a flaw. That's humanity, that's real. But society tells us that a woman has to be everything all the time without ever asking for help, without ever showing any cracks. The truth is, though, that it's the cracks that make us whole. It's in the acknowledgement of our need for others that we allow ourselves to grow. We can't do it all, and that's okay. The sooner we embrace that truth, the sooner we find peace within ourselves. Now, let me tell you something. Your strength does not come from being unbreakable. Your strength comes from how you rise after you've been broken, how you get back up, how you continue to move forward even when you've been knocked down. That's the real strength. It's the kind of strength that says, I will stand tall even when I don't have it all together. I will rise even when I don't feel like it. Your strength is in your ability to acknowledge your pain, to work through it, and to transform it into something that makes you even more powerful. But there's something else that's often overlooked. And I want to speak to this, especially to the women in the room. Too often, women think that their worth is tied to their ability to please others, to meet everyone's expectations, to be everything to everyone. But let me tell you this, you are worthy not because of what you give to others, but because of who you are. You don't need to sacrifice your own well-being to prove your value. You don't need to lose yourself to make everyone else happy. It's easy to lose sight of who you are when you're caught up in the whirlwind of life. The demands, the responsibilities, the constant giving. You forget who you are beneath all of that. You forget your dreams, your desires, your passions. You forget what makes you smile. And that's a weakness, not because you're weak, but because you've been running on empty for so long that you've forgotten how to refuel. But I'm telling you today, it's not too late. It's never too late to reclaim your joy, to rediscover your purpose, to fall in love with who you are all over again. Understand this, it's not selfish to put yourself first. In fact, it's necessary. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give love if you don't first love yourself. You can't show up for others if you're not showing up for you. Taking care of yourself isn't a weakness. It's an act of strength. It's the most powerful thing you can do. Because when you show up for yourself, you become the best version of yourself for everyone around you. So take care of your body, your mind, your soul. Give yourself the space to breathe. You deserve that. And let me tell you something else. Every woman's weakness isn't just the burden of others' expectations. It's also the burden of her own expectations. The pressure we place on ourselves to be perfect, to never fail, to never falter. That's a weakness too. The fear of failure can paralyze you. It can make you doubt yourself, second guess your every move. But listen, failure is not the end. It's the beginning of growth. It's the soil where seeds of greatness are planted. It's in the struggle, the mistakes, the missteps that we learn who we truly are. So when you fall, don't be afraid of the fall. Don't be afraid of the mistakes. Don't let them define you. Let them refine you. Let them teach you something about yourself that you never knew existed. Embrace failure as a stepping stone to your success. You can't succeed without stumbling. You can't learn without making mistakes. The key is to get back up every time. And when you get back up, you will be stronger, wiser, and more equipped to handle whatever comes next. There's a powerful thing that happens when you face your weakness head on. When you stop pretending that you have it all together. When you stop hiding behind a facade of strength, you open the door for others to do the same. You create a space where people can be real, can be vulnerable, and can grow. When you own your weaknesses, you empower others to own theirs. You create an environment of honesty, of authenticity, of true connection. You remind others that they don't have to carry the weight of the world on their shoulders alone. But here's what I really want you to understand. Weakness is not something to be ashamed of. It's not something that diminishes your value. It's what makes you human. It's what makes you relatable. It's what connects you to others. And when you stop seeing your weakness as a flaw, when you stop hiding from it, you can start to use it to your advantage. You can start to use your vulnerability as a source of strength. Every woman's weakness is the fear of being seen as imperfect, as less than, as not enough. But I'm here to tell you, you are more than enough. You are whole, and you are worthy. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be flawless. You just have to be real. And that's what the world needs more of. People who are willing to stand in their truth, to embrace their flaws, and to keep moving forward in the face of it all. So don't let anyone, not even yourself, convince you that your weaknesses make you any less than amazing. Don't let society's standards dictate your worth. You are powerful, not in spite of your weaknesses, but because of them. They are what make you who you are. They are what give you the wisdom, the resilience, the compassion to make a difference in this world. And in this world, ladies, we need your power. We need your strength. We need your vulnerability. We need your willingness to keep going even when the road gets tough. We need your courage to rise above the noise, to show up for yourself and for others. We need your voice, your heart, your soul. So if you ever find yourself doubting your worth, doubting your strength, doubting your ability to keep going, remember this: your weaknesses are not your downfall. They are your foundation. They are the beginning of something greater. Embrace them. Own them. Let them empower you. Because at the end of the day, every woman's weakness is not her downfall, it's her superpower. And when you realize that, when you step into your power, there's nothing in this world that can stop you. You said, true strength comes not from being unbreakable, but from how you rise after being broken. Embracing vulnerability and acknowledging weakness is a powerful step toward personal growth and resilience. It's crucial for women to prioritize self-care and well-being. Taking care of oneself isn't selfish. It's necessary to be able to show up for others and live a fulfilling life. Weakness is not a flaw, but rather a natural part of being human. It's in the recognition of our weaknesses that we can grow and transform them into sources of strength. Women often feel pressure to be perfect, but imperfection is what connects us all. Embracing imperfections and mistakes is key to personal growth and fostering authenticity and connection with others. By owning our weaknesses and showing our true selves, we empower not only ourselves, but also those around us. Vulnerability creates space for others to be authentic and grow, fostering a community of strength. True strength is not found in the ability to appear unbreakable, flawless, or invulnerable. In fact, it is in vulnerability that we often discover the most profound forms of strength. For many, the concept of vulnerability is misunderstood. Society often associates vulnerability with weakness, something to be avoided or hidden, as if it were a flaw to be ashamed of. But in reality, vulnerability is the very thing that makes us human, that connects us to others, and that enables us to grow in ways we never thought possible. At its core, vulnerability is the willingness to show up and be seen, even when we feel uncertain, imperfect, or fragile. It's the courage to open ourselves up to the possibility of hurt, rejection, or failure, with the understanding that even in those moments of discomfort, we are still whole. In fact, vulnerability is where our true power lies, because it is in these moments of openness that we allow ourselves to experience the full range of human emotions and experiences. There's an incredible strength that comes with being willing to be vulnerable. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we are acknowledging our own humanity. We are acknowledging that we are not infallible, that we don't have all the answers, and that it's okay to ask for help, to lean on others, or to admit when we are struggling. This is not weakness, it is a profound form of strength. It takes far more courage to admit our fears, our doubts, and our pain than hide a facade. Many of us fear vulnerability because it requires us to expose parts of ourselves that we think may be judged or misunderstood. We fear being seen as weak or incapable. But the truth is, it's the very act of sharing our vulnerabilities that makes us relatable, human, and deeply connected to one another. When we share our struggles, our setbacks, our scars, we create space for others to do the same. We invite empathy, understanding, and support. The more we embrace vulnerability, the more we allow others to embrace it too. And in doing so, we build bridges between us instead of walls. One of the greatest misconceptions about vulnerability is that it makes us weak. But in reality, it takes far more strength to be vulnerable than to hide behind a mask of invulnerability. We've all been taught in one way or another that strength means standing tall, never showing weakness, never asking for help. We've been taught to be self-reliant, to be independent, and to prove that we can handle it all on our own. But this mentality often leads to isolation, burnout, and a feeling of emptiness, because we were never meant to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders alone. The truth is, vulnerability is where true courage resides. It's the courage to admit that we are human, to say, I don't have all the answers and I'm okay with that. It's the courage to let go of the need to control every aspect of our lives and to trust that we can handle whatever comes our way, even when it feels uncertain. It's the courage to speak our truth, to ask for what we need, and to be seen for who we truly are, imperfections and all. When we choose vulnerability, we are choosing to be real. We are choosing to be authentic and honest, even when it feels uncomfortable or scary. It is easy to put on a mask and pretend everything is fine, but this only leads to emotional exhaustion and disconnect. Vulnerability, on the other hand, invites us to be fully present in our own lives. It invites us to embrace our emotions, our fears, and our imperfections without judgment or shame. It is through this authentic expression that we begin to experience true freedom and peace. There is no real growth without vulnerability. Growth requires us to step outside of our comfort zones, to take risks, and to face the unknown. It requires us to be willing to fail, to fall, and to learn from our mistakes. But if we are constantly shielding ourselves from vulnerability, we prevent ourselves from fully experiencing the world and all that it has to offer. When we close ourselves off from vulnerability, we close ourselves off from life itself. We deny ourselves the opportunity to grow, to expand, and to become the person we are meant to be. Well, then think about the times in your life when you have truly grown. Were they not the moments when you stepped into the unknown, when you took a risk and faced your fears head on? When you allowed yourself to be vulnerable, even though you didn't know how it would turn out. Growth happens when we allow ourselves to be uncomfortable, when we push through the fear and the doubt, and when we open ourselves to new experiences. Vulnerability is the gateway to this kind of growth. It's important to understand that vulnerability does not mean weakness. Vulnerability is about being honest with ourselves and others. It's about acknowledging our struggles and accepting that we are not perfect, but that's okay. It's about being willing to ask for help when we need it, to express our emotions, and to admit when we're scared, tired, or overwhelmed. When we do this, we release the pressure of pretending to be something we're not, and we make room for healing, growth, and connection. Furthermore, vulnerability is essential in building meaningful relationships. When we are vulnerable with others, we invite them to be vulnerable with us. This creates a deeper level of trust and intimacy. When we share our true selves with others, we create the space for them to do the same. It's through this mutual exchange of vulnerability that true connection is formed. Relationships based on vulnerability are built on robust respect and understanding. They allow us to be seen for who we truly are without fear of judgment or rejection. In a world that often prizes strength and success above all else, vulnerability is a radical act. It goes against the grain of the cultural norms that tell us to be tough, to never let our guard down, to always appear in control. But it's in that very act of vulnerability that we discover our true power. We realize that our strength is not about being invulnerable, but about being able to withstand life's challenges with grace and authenticity. It's about learning how to navigate the highs and lows of life while staying true to ourselves. Vulnerability is not about weakness, it's about courage. It's about having the courage to show up as we are, to speak our truth, and to stand firm in our own worth, even when we feel afraid or uncertain. It's the courage to ask for help, to lean on others when we need it, and to trust that we don't have to go through life alone. It's the courage to embrace our imperfections and to let go of the need for perfection. It's the courage to fall, to rise, and to keep moving forward no matter what. In embracing vulnerability, we open ourselves up to deeper connections, greater personal growth, and a life that is lived more fully. We learn that it's okay to be imperfect, to make mistakes, and to ask for help. We learn that our weaknesses do not define us, rather it is how we rise from those weaknesses that shapes who we are. We learn that it is through our vulnerability that we become our most powerful selves. It's not about being unbreakable, it's about how we heal, how we grow, and how we continue to show up, no matter what. The truth is that every time we choose vulnerability, we choose to step into a life that is rich with possibility. We allow ourselves to be free, to be real, to be imperfect, and to be human. And in that freedom, we discover strength beyond measure. It's in the cracks, in the brokenness, in the rawness of life that we find the truest form of strength. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Embrace it. Because in vulnerability, you will find your true power. Self-care is one of the most important, yet often overlooked practices in our lives. It is not just about pampering ourselves with a spa day or indulging in a piece of chocolate. It's about a deep, intentional commitment to our well-being, both physically and emotionally. In the rush of everyday life, it's easy to forget to take care of ourselves. We become so caught up in the demands of work, family, relationships, and the never-ending list of things to do that we often push our own needs to the back burner. But when we neglect self-care, we begin to lose touch with ourselves. We become exhausted, stressed, and disconnected from our own emotions. The truth is, self-care is not just a luxury, it's a necessity. It is the foundation upon which we build our ability to show up for others, to perform well in our jobs, and to live meaningful lives. At its core, self-care is about recognizing that we are worthy of care, attention, and love. It's about giving ourselves permission to take a break, to recharge and nurture our minds, bodies, and souls. It's the simple act of honoring our needs and taking proactive steps to ensure that we are in the best possible condition to face life's challenges. In a world that often encourages overwork and self-sacrifice, self-care can feel like a radical act. But the truth is, we cannot pour from an empty cup. We cannot give love, energy, or attention to others if we are not first nurturing ourselves. Self-care isn't selfish, it's essential. It is the practice of putting yourself first without guilt or shame, because only when we take care of ourselves can we truly show up for the people and the things that matter most. Self-care is not a one-size-fits-all solution. What works for one person may not work for another, and that's okay. The beauty of self-care is that it can be tailored to meet our individual needs. For some, self-care might mean a quiet evening alone, away from the chaos of life, while for others, it might mean a workout or engaging in a hobby. Self-care is as unique as each individual, and it's important to identify what practices bring you peace, rejuvenation, and joy. The key is to make self-care a priority, not just when we're overwhelmed or burned out, but as an ongoing practice that we integrate into our daily lives. One of the most important aspects of self-care is setting boundaries. In a world that demands so much of us, it can be difficult to say no. We often feel the pressure to meet others' expectations, to be available to everyone at all times, and to do more than we are capable of. But setting boundaries is an essential part of self-care because it allows us to protect our time, energy, and mental health. When we say no to things that drain us or no longer serve us, we are saying yes to ourselves. Boundaries are a way of preserving our energy so that we can give from a place of abundance rather than depletion. Taking care of our physical health is, of course, a key component of self-care. We cannot feel our best if our bodies are not in a state of well-being. Regular exercise, nutritious food, and adequate rest are the basic building blocks of good physical health. But self-care also involves listening to our bodies and paying attention to the signals they send us. If we are tired, we need to rest. If we are feeling stressed, we need to take a step back and engage in activities that calm our minds and restore our sense of balance. We have to learn to tune into our bodies and honor their needs rather than ignoring them. When we neglect our physical health, we create a ripple effect that impacts every area of our lives. We become more prone to stress, illness, and burnout, which only makes it harder to show up for others or perform at our best. Physical self-care isn't just about looking good. It's about feeling good inside and out. Mental and emotional self-care are just as important as physical care, yet they are often the most neglected. We live in a fast-paced, high-pressure world that constantly demands more of us. We are expected to perform, to be productive, and to keep up with the ever-increasing demands of our careers, relationships, and responsibilities. This constant pressure can take a toll on our mental and emotional well-being. Stress, anxiety, and overwhelm can easily take root when we are not prioritizing our emotional health. Taking time for mental self-care means engaging in activities that soothe our minds, reduce stress, and promote emotional balance. This might include meditation, journaling, practicing gratitude, or simply taking time to reflect on our feelings. Emotional self-care also involves being kind to ourselves. Often we are our own worst critics. We beat ourselves up for not doing enough, for not being perfect, for not meeting the expectations we set for ourselves. But self-care requires us to be gentle with ourselves. It means accepting our flaws, acknowledging our mistakes, and giving ourselves permission to be imperfect. We have to practice self-compassion, which is the ability to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a friend. When we are kind to ourselves, we allow space for growth, healing, and transformation. We stop expecting perfection and begin to embrace progress. Another important aspect of self-care is rest. In a culture that glorifies hustle and productivity, rest is often seen as a luxury or an afterthought. But rest is not only necessary for our physical health, it is essential for our emotional and mental well-being. Our minds and bodies need downtime to recover from the stresses of life. Without rest, we risk burnout, exhaustion, and a decline in our overall well-being. Rest doesn't just mean sleep, although that is certainly important. It also means taking breaks throughout the day, stepping away from work, and giving ourselves permission to do nothing when we need to. It means recognizing that rest is not a sign of weakness, but a powerful tool for maintaining our energy, focus, and productivity. When we rest, we recharge our batteries so we can approach life with renewed energy and enthusiasm. Self-care also involves nurturing our relationships. We are social creatures, and our connections with others play a significant role in our well-being, but relationships, while fulfilling, can also be draining at times. It's important to recognize when a relationship is taking more from us than it is giving, and to set healthy boundaries within those relationships. Healthy relationships are a two-way street. They require give and take. We must surround ourselves with people who uplift and support us, not drain us. And equally, we must be mindful of how we show up in our relationships. Are we giving too much of ourselves and neglecting our own needs? Are we taking care of ourselves so that we can be present for others? Nurturing our relationships means investing time and energy in people who make us feel valued, loved, and supported. Another powerful form of self-care is engaging in activities that bring us joy and fulfillment. Too often, we become so focused on our responsibilities and obligations that we forget to do the things that make us happy. We forget to play, to laugh, and to indulge in the things that bring us a sense of wonder. Whether it's pursuing a hobby, spending time in nature, or simply enjoying a good book, engaging in activities that bring us joy is an essential part of self-care. These activities nourish our soul and remind us of the beauty and richness of life. They give us something to look forward to, something that brings us peace and contentment. Self-care is also about self-awareness. It requires us to tune in to our own needs and desires and to be honest with ourselves about what we need to feel whole and balanced. It's about being aware of our emotional and physical states and taking proactive steps to address any imbalances. Self-care is not a one-time fix. It's a continuous process of checking in with ourselves and making adjustments as needed. It requires us to be present and intentional in how we care for ourselves rather than waiting until we're overwhelmed or burnt out. At its core, self-care is about honoring our worth. It is about acknowledging that we deserve love, attention, and care, and that we are worth the time and effort it takes to take care of ourselves. When we prioritize self-care, we are sending a powerful message to ourselves and to others that we are worthy of respect, kindness, and compassion. We are showing up for ourselves in a way that honors our needs and allows us to thrive. When we take care of ourselves, we are better equipped to show up for the people and the things that matter most. We are better able to give, to love, and to serve from a place of abundance rather than depletion. Self-care is not a luxury. It is a necessity. It is the foundation upon which we build our health, our happiness, and our success. When we prioritize self-care, we are not only taking care of ourselves, but also giving ourselves the gift of a fuller, richer life. We are saying yes to ourselves, yes to our well-being, and yes to our own worth. And in doing so, we are able to show up in the world as our best, most authentic selves. Self-care is the act of showing ourselves the same love, kindness, and compassion that we so freely give to others. It is an ongoing practice, a commitment to ourselves, and a reminder that we are worthy of care, respect, and attention. Weakness is often seen as a flaw, something to be avoided at all costs, something that signals failure or lack of strength. We live in a world that celebrates strength, power, and success, where the narrative is that to succeed, one must be unbreakable, unwavering, and constantly on the go. The idea of weakness is painted as something negative, something to be hidden or overcome, and there's an inherent pressure to avoid showing vulnerability. Yet when we redefine weakness and challenge the traditional understanding of it, we begin to realize that it is not something to fear, but something to embrace, something that makes us human, and in many ways makes us stronger. Weakness, when redefined, is not about being inadequate or powerless. It's about being honest with ourselves about our limits and being willing to ask for help. It's about understanding that we all have moments when we are not at our best, and it's in those moments that we grow. In our society, there is a cultural pressure to be perfect, to be constantly on top of everything, to be the one who is always strong, and to never show that we might need a break, help, or support. This idealized image of invincibility leaves little room for the truth of our experiences. We all have moments of weakness. We all struggle, face challenges, and feel broken at times. This doesn't make us weak, it makes us human. In fact, it's through experiencing what we perceive as weaknesses that we often find our true strength. The concept of weakness is often attached to shame, but what if we saw it as an opportunity? What if we saw our weaknesses not as things to be hidden, but as things that could empower us, that could help us grow and connect with others? When we are open about our struggles, when we acknowledge our limitations and our vulnerabilities, we are not admitting defeat, we are taking a step toward growth. We are showing ourselves the compassion that we so often show to others. We are saying, I am not perfect, but I am trying. I am human, and I am enough. There is immense power in recognizing our weaknesses. It takes courage to admit that we are struggling, to accept that we don't have all the answers, but that we need help. It's easy to pretend that we have it all together, to put on a mask and act like everything is fine, but doing so only perpetuates the myth that we must always be strong, that we must never falter. The reality is that no one is perfect. Everyone faces challenges. Everyone has weaknesses. The key is how we respond to those weaknesses. Do we hide from them, or do we face them head on, learn from them, and grow? Redefining weakness also involves understanding that our weaknesses are not fixed. They are not permanent states, nor are they insurmountable barriers. Weaknesses, like strengths, are part of our evolving journey. What may feel like a weakness today may be a source of strength tomorrow. It's in the moments when we feel most vulnerable that we often learn the most about ourselves. When we're at our lowest, when we feel like we can't go on, we discover our resilience, our capacity to rise again. Our weaknesses can become the very fuel that drives us to improve, to learn, and to move forward in ways we never thought possible. Furthermore, acknowledging our weaknesses allows us to build deeper connections with others. When we show our true selves, when we share our struggles and our challenges, we invite others to do the same. We create an environment where vulnerability is not only accepted but celebrated. It is through this shared vulnerability that authentic relationships are formed. No one is perfect, and when we stop pretending to be, we give others permission to do the same. This creates space for genuine connection, empathy, and support. We realize that we are not alone in our struggles. Our weaknesses connect us to others in ways that our strengths cannot. Another way to redefine weakness is to understand that it is often a temporary state. When we go through difficult times, when we experience setbacks, it can feel like we're stuck in a place of weakness. But in truth, those moments are often just stepping stones to something greater. Strength is not built in moments of ease, it is forged in adversity. When we face challenges and allow ourselves to feel vulnerable, we are not being weak, we are learning, adapting, and evolving. Each time we push through a difficult moment, we become stronger. Each time we acknowledge our weaknesses, we are preparing ourselves for the future. Weakness, in this sense, is just a part of the process of becoming who we are meant to be. It is not something to be feared, but something to embrace as a natural part of the journey. There is also a misconception that weakness is always a sign of something negative, something that needs to be fixed. But what if we reframed it as a sign of strength? What if we saw weakness as an invitation to rest, to recalibrate, to take a step back, and to restore ourselves? Weakness doesn't always mean that we're failing. It can also mean that we are being called to slow down, to care for ourselves, and to listen to our bodies, minds, and hearts. It's okay to not always be at our best. It's okay to take a break and recharge. Recognizing our need for rest, for emotional care, for a moment to pause is a form of strength, not weakness. It shows self-awareness and the wisdom to understand that we cannot give our best if we are running on empty. Redefining weakness also means breaking free from the idea of comparison. So often we measure ourselves against others, thinking that if we are not as strong, successful, or capable as someone else, then we must be weak. This mindset only leads to feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. The truth is, everyone has their own unique set of strengths and weaknesses, and no one's journey is exactly the same. Instead of comparing ourselves to others, we should focus on our own growth. We should measure our progress by how far we have come, by how much we have learned, and by how we have faced our own challenges. Weakness is not a flaw, but a part of our individual story, and it is how we deal with it that defines us. Another critical part of redefining weakness is letting go of the fear of failure. Failure is often seen as the ultimate sign of weakness, a confirmation that we are not good enough. But failure is not the end, it's part of the process. Every great achievement, every success story has been shaped by failure. It is through failure that we learn the most valuable lessons. We learn what doesn't work, what needs to change, and how to improve. Failure is not something to be feared or avoided, it is an opportunity to grow. When we embrace failure as a teacher, we redefine what it means to be weak. We no longer see failure as a reflection of our worth, but as a stepping stone toward greater success. Reframing weakness also involves understanding that our weaknesses are often sources of empathy and compassion. When we experience hardship, when we struggle with something, we gain a deeper understanding of what others are going through. Our own weaknesses make us more compassionate, more attuned to the struggles of those around us. We learn to be kinder, not just to others, but to ourselves. We understand that everyone has their battles, and we can offer support, encouragement, and kindness to those who are facing their own challenges. In this way, weakness is not something that separates us, but something that unites us. It gives us the ability to connect with others on a deeper level, to offer understanding, and to share our experiences in a way that fosters compassion. We must also acknowledge that weakness can serve as a catalyst for change. When we face our weaknesses, when we confront the areas of our lives that we are not proud of or that hold us back, we are presented with an opportunity to change. We can either let our weaknesses define us, or we can use them as a springboard for transformation. Our weaknesses can highlight the areas of our lives that need attention, growth, and improvement. They can show us where we need to evolve, whether it's in our mindset, our habits, or our emotional responses. Weaknesses are not dead ends. They are reminders that there is always room for growth, always an opportunity to become better, stronger, and more resilient. Ultimately, redefining weakness is about embracing the complexity of being human. We are all a mix of strengths and weaknesses, and both are important parts of who we are. It's time to stop viewing weakness as a burden or a flaw and start seeing it as an essential part of our growth and journey. When we acknowledge our weaknesses with honesty and self-compassion, we open the door to transformation. We realize that it is not our weaknesses that define us, but how we respond to them, how we use them as opportunities for growth, and how we allow them to shape us into better versions of ourselves. Weakness then becomes not something to fear, but something to embrace, a stepping stone on the path to becoming stronger, wiser, and more connected to others. Imperfection is often seen as a flaw, something to be hidden, something that diminishes our worth. In a world that constantly celebrates perfection, where success is measured by standards that are often unrealistic, it can be easy to believe that imperfection is something to be ashamed of. We see others who seem to have it all together, their lives are polished, their achievements are celebrated, and their flaws are hidden behind carefully curated images. In the face of such ideals, it's easy to feel that our imperfections are signs of failure, of inadequacy, or of not measuring up. But the truth is, imperfection is a part of being human. It is something we all share, something that connects us, and ultimately something that makes us whole. When we embrace imperfection, we release ourselves from the pressure of trying to be perfect and allow ourselves to live authentically with acceptance and compassion. At the core of embracing imperfection is the realization that perfection is not attainable, nor is it necessary. Perfection is an illusion, a standard that doesn't exist in reality. It is a moving target, one that we can never quite reach, no matter how hard we try. The pursuit of perfection is exhausting. It requires constant vigilance, constant comparison to others, and a refusal to acknowledge our limitations. But when we accept imperfection, we free ourselves from this exhausting cycle. We begin to understand that it is okay to make mistakes, to stumble, and to fall short of expectations. In fact, it is in these moments of imperfection that we find our greatest potential for growth. Imperfection is not something to be feared, but something to be celebrated. When we embrace our flaws, we open ourselves up to a world of possibilities. It is through our imperfections that we find the strength to learn, adapt, and improve. When we accept that we are not perfect, we create space for creativity, for innovation, and for genuine connection. Perfection often comes with a rigid set of rules and standards, but imperfection allows for flexibility, for experimentation, and for growth. It is through embracing our imperfections that we find the courage to take risks too. Authenticity is a concept that is often discussed but rarely fully embraced. We live in a world that values image over substance, that celebrates perfection over reality, and that pushes us to conform to societal expectations rather than celebrating our true selves. The pressure to fit into these molds can feel overwhelming, making it difficult to embrace our authentic selves. But true empowerment comes from shedding the layers of expectation and embracing who we truly are. When we step into authenticity, we align ourselves with our purpose, our values, and our passions. We begin to understand that we are enough just as we are, without the need to prove anything to anyone. Authenticity is not about being perfect or having it all figured out. It is about being real, transparent, and honest with ourselves and with others. It means accepting who we are, with all of our flaws, quirks, and imperfections, and knowing that those very aspects of ourselves are what make us unique and valuable. When we embrace authenticity, we stop pretending to be someone we're not. We stop putting on a mask to fit in or to please others. And we allow ourselves to show up as our true selves, unapologetically and without fear. The journey to authenticity begins with self-awareness. It requires us to look inward, to understand our thoughts, our desires, our fears, and our values. Self-awareness allows us to strip away the external influences that shape our identities and to connect with who we are. It involves asking ourselves the difficult questions. What do we truly want in life? What do we value most? What makes us feel alive? The more we get in touch with our true selves, the more we can begin to express who we are in all aspects of our lives. This is not always easy. It requires vulnerability and courage, especially in a world that often encourages us to hide our true selves in favor of fitting in. But when we choose authenticity, we choose to live a life of integrity, one that reflects our truest desires and purpose. Empowerment through authenticity is about rejecting the idea that we need to be someone else in order to be worthy or successful. We live in a world where comparisons are constant, where social media creates an environment of filtered lives and unrealistic standards. It's easy to get caught up in the cycle of comparison, to feel that we are not enough, that we need to change or improve in order to be valued. But the truth is, we don't need to be anyone other than ourselves. Our worth is not determined by how closely we align with someone else's version of success. We don't need to change our essence to be loved or appreciated. True empowerment comes from recognizing that we are enough just as we are. We don't need external validation to feel worthy. When we embrace our authenticity, we begin to attract the people, experiences, and opportunities that align with who we truly are. Living authentically also means letting go of fear, the fear of judgment, the fear of rejection, the fear of being misunderstood. These fears often hold us back from expressing our true selves. We worry about what others will think, how they will perceive us, and whether they will accept us for who we are. But when we live authentically, we stop allowing fear to control us. We choose to honor our truth regardless of what others may think. We stop seeking approval and instead trust that those who are meant to be in our lives will accept us as we are. Authenticity requires bravery, but it also brings a deep sense of freedom. When we stop living in fear of others' opinions, we liberate ourselves from the constraints that hold us back. We no longer feel the need to hide or conform. We stand tall in our own skin, confident in who we are. Authenticity also creates space for genuine connections. When we are true to ourselves, we invite others to do the same. It's easy to connect with people who wear the same mask of perfection or who project an idealized version of themselves. But those connections are often shallow and lack depth. True connection happens when we show up as we are, vulnerable, imperfect, and real. It's when we allow ourselves to be seen in our rawness and our humanity that we begin to create meaningful bonds with others. Authenticity breeds trust, because when we are genuine, we give others permission to be genuine with us. The relationships that are built on authenticity are the ones that last, that provide us with the support, love, and understanding we need to thrive. One of the most powerful aspects of authenticity is that it allows us to create a life that is aligned with our true values and passions. When we stop trying to meet external expectations and start listening to our inner guidance, we begin to make choices that reflect who we are and what we truly want. This is where empowerment comes in. When we live authentically, we step into our power. We make decisions based on what resonates with us, not what others think we should do. We set boundaries that protect our well-being and honor our needs. We pursue goals that align with our purpose, not because they're trendy or because they'll earn us approval, but because they light us up from the inside. Empowerment through authenticity comes from trusting ourselves, from believing that we have the wisdom and the strength to create the life we truly desire. Authenticity is also a practice of self-acceptance. It means recognizing that we are not perfect, and that's okay. We are allowed to have flaws, to make mistakes, and to learn along the way. The pursuit of perfection often leads to frustration and burnout because it sets unrealistic expectations for ourselves. When we embrace authenticity, we let go of the need for perfection. We understand that we are constantly evolving, and that's part of the beauty of being human. Self-acceptance allows us to stop criticizing ourselves and start appreciating the journey we're on. It allows us to celebrate our progress, even when it's messy or imperfect. Empowerment comes from accepting ourselves as we are without the need to change or fix everything. We are worthy of love, success, and happiness, exactly as we are in this moment. Living authentically also requires a commitment to self-expression. It means expressing ourselves in ways that feel true to who we are, whether it's through our words, actions, or creative pursuits. Too often we suppress our desires or mute our voices because we fear that others won't approve or understand. But when we embrace authenticity, we give ourselves permission to speak our truth, to express our creativity, and to share our unique perspective with the world. Self-expression is a vital part of empowerment because it allows us to claim our place in the world. It allows us to share our gifts and contribute to the collective in a way that only we can. When we suppress our true selves, we deny the world the opportunity to experience the full range of who we are. Empowerment through authenticity means using our voice, our talents, and our energy to make an impact in a way that only we can. The journey to authenticity is not always easy, and it may not always be linear. There will be times when we feel uncertain, when we question our choices, or when we slip back into old habits of people-pleasing or self-doubt. But authenticity is not about being perfect, it's about being true to who we are in every moment. It's about showing up for ourselves even when it feels difficult. It's about learning to trust ourselves and our intuition, even when the world around us is telling us to do otherwise. The more we practice authenticity, the easier it becomes to step into our power and live a life that is aligned with who we truly are. Empowerment through authenticity is the key to living a fulfilled and meaningful life. It is about stepping into our true power, embracing who we are, and trusting that we are enough. It is about shedding the masks and the expectations that we have been carrying for so long and allowing ourselves to simply be. When we live authentically, we give ourselves permission to be free, to be whole, and to be truly empowered. We stop seeking approval from others and start living in alignment with our values and passions. We create lives that are rich with purpose, connection, and self-expression. Empowerment is not found in perfection or conformity. It is found in authenticity, the courage to show up as we are, to embrace our true selves, and to live fully in the world.